This is the college football preview from the Sports Talk Media Network. Phil Kornblut along with Chris Bergen. All right, Chris, the Gamecocks went to Kentucky, got a very nice win as a 9.5-point underdog. They're back home at Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday at noon against LSU, also a 9.5-point underdog. The Gamecocks have been one of the major topics across the country this week because of that win at Kentucky, getting all kinds of national attention, all kinds of pats on the back. Are they being set up for being demolished by LSU, or will we see a Gamecock team go out, play even better than they did against Kentucky, and get off to a 3-0 start?
Don't you know Brian Kelly and LSU are eating this up? They are dealing with other circumstances with a hurricane that hit Louisiana on Wednesday. But aside from that, as long as they're safe, they've got to be loving this because none of the attention is on them, even though probably right now they're the better of the two football teams. But that being said, the Gamecocks were awfully impressive against Kentucky over the weekend. Extremely impressive on defense. And Phil, you look at some of the numbers, it backs it up. This is a Gamecock team giving up just 12.5 points a game. They've been really, really good against the pass, especially with the amount of sacks they put up. The concern you have is, can the offense continue to improve? It has not been stellar through the first two ball games. It was good enough both weeks, but the defense bailed them out. I think they'll have to be a little bit better, run the football against LSU, but continue to apply the defensive pressure against Garrett Nussmeier, who I'm not sure have seen a front four, front seven like you'll see this weekend out of Carolina.
You know, most fans, most media, we watch the football. We watch where the quarterback hands it. We watch where the quarterback throws it. Might be a good idea to keep an eye on the line of scrimmage when LSU has the football, because the matchup of the Tigers' offensive line and the Gamecocks' defensive front, this could be a classic.
I think that's the best matchup on the field. I think you're exactly right, because I think Carolina's defensive front has been outstanding through two ball games, probably won both games because of that. And Ellis Johnson told us as much on Sports Talk back on Wednesday night. He said they were the difference. Now, on the flip side, I think Carolina's offensive line may be able to move around against LSU's defensive front because it's not what you typically see from the Tigers. But, yeah, you're right. The key matchup is going to be LSU's offensive line, which has NFL players across the board, against South Carolina's defensive front, which may have the two best defensive end combos in the country right now.
Going to be a real test because LSU's two tackles are outstanding NFL prospects. Okay, that game will kick off at noon in Columbia, about 2 o'clock up in Philadelphia. It's Coastal Carolina and the Temple Owls, and a chance for the Chanticleers to go to 3-0, two impressive wins to open the season. How good is this team?
They've been very good to start ball games. They did not finish the game this past Saturday against William & Mary nearly as well as Tim Beck would have liked. He told them that at halftime, also reiterated it in a postgame and mentioned a little bit this week during his press conference. But, Phil, they've gotten off to such good starts, it has not been a problem for them. They've gone out to double-digit leads at Jacksonville State and also against William & Mary and sort of put it on cruise control. And you look at Temple. This will be the first ever meeting there. And if the Chanticleers can get over playing where the Eagles play and playing in a stadium that holds 60-plus thousand, can't imagine they'll be anywhere close to that kind of crowd. But I don't know. This is Temple's first home game. But you look at Temple. They've been outscored 89-14 in two ball games thus far. Now, in fairness, it's by Oklahoma and also the Naval Academy, and that's why you look and see that they have allowed 517 yards rushing through two ball games, and I would imagine the bulk of which came from the midshipmen. Now, that's where Coastal has been very, very strong thus far this season. They've been able to run the football extremely well, though they're a little bit banged up in the backfield. Braden Bennett will not play this weekend, their lead running back, so you've got to figure out, all right, if he doesn't play, how they're going to get some help from some other guys across the board. I think they're deep enough. They should be fine. The only concern you really have is playing on the road. You don't know what kind of crowd. Do you have to bring your own energy? And there's a huge ball game for Coastal looming on the horizon, a matchup with Virginia in Conway next weekend.
Let's give a shout-out to the Wofford Terriers as they go for a third straight win to open the season. They'll be at home against that William & Mary team you just saw last week. They won at Gardner-Webb. They won at Richmond last week. And Coach Watson's got this team playing some good football. He might have found himself a quarterback.
And if that's the case, they should be fine against William and Mary, though I think William and Mary might be a little more apples to apples comparison against Wofford. But I've been extremely pleased with the start the Terriers have gotten off to this season because offense has been a struggle for them. Maybe they figured it out. And this will be a good test for them. William and Mary, I don't think, fell too far in the FCS polls, so they're probably still a top 25 ranked team. So a big opportunity for the Terriers this weekend in Spartanburg. And you want to talk about the weather. They may run into a situation where the weather could be nasty this weekend up in Spartanburg.
Meantime, you got Furman. Of course, they got blown out by Ole Miss. No real shame there, except the margin of defeat was maybe a bit surprising. But then they get stunned at home by Charleston Southern last Saturday. They have Stetson at home this Saturday.
Good chance for the Paladins to bounce back, and I don't think we anticipated a sluggish start. Thought they'd lose to Ole Miss. Certainly the Charleston Southern game was a surprise, but my guess is that the coaching staff has gotten the attention of their team this past week, and Furman will play a lot better this Saturday.
All right, let's look at the rest of the schedule. Presbyterian coming off a win at Erskine, home to Virginia Lynchburg, South Carolina State. A winner at the Citadel last weekend, on the road for the third straight weekend at Georgia Southern. Charleston Southern will play at Richmond, coming off that win over Furman. Newberry, a loser last week to Valdosta State, home to defending NAIA national champion Kaiser, which got a win over North Greenville to open the season. The Citadel will be home to take on North Greenville, coming off that loss to South Carolina State. Erskine home to Elizabeth City State. Limestone will be at West Alabama. Benedict home to Lane. Allen, a loser in its opener at Clark Atlanta, will be at home against Livingstone. And Anderson, which defeated St. Andrews in its first ever game last week, back at home on Saturday against LaGrange. That'll do it for the college football preview. For Chris Bergen, this is Phil Kornblut on the Sports Talk Media Network.